I always believed the late hours belonged to me. The stillness of midnight when the house was silent, the air thick with slumber, and even the walls seemed to exhale calm. But that night at precisely 12:41 a.m., I woke up parched, and everything I thought I understood shattered with a single sentence. "Yeah, darling, he's completely clueless. Tomorrow night. Just make sure it looks chaotic." I froze, one hand on the doorknob, the other clutching an empty glass. Her voice was hushed, calculated, laced with purpose. My wife, the woman I vowed to love 3 years ago, the woman I thought I knew down to the faint scar behind her left knee. She stood in the kitchen, back to me, phone pressed to her ear, fingers toying with the tie of her robe. I heard her chuckle, soft, almost uneasy. Then, "I'll leave the door unlatched at 10. Keep it fast, stage it like a botched burglary." I stepped back before the floor could creak and betray me. No rage, no frenzy. I placed the glass on the hall table and moved toward the garage as if heading out for a cigarette. She didn't notice me. She didn't hear the door shut behind me. My name is Jack Brennan. I'm 46, and I work as Chief Security Strategist for a global infrastructure company called Valence Operations Group. It's a front. My true employer is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Counterintelligence Division, Domestic Operatives Unit. For the last 15 years, I've been embedded in civilian roles, tracking threats within U.S. borders, tech espionage, cartel operations, foreign extortion schemes. Before that, I was a Marine scout sniper, serving in 5 conflict zones, discharged with honors, then discreetly recruited. I've watched good men die because they trusted the wrong person. I've peered through scopes at enemies who grinned one day and slit throats the next. And I've learned without question that the first rule of survival isn't power or agility. It's silence. Let them speak. Let them assume. Let them tangle themselves in their own lies. The garage was dark until I punched the code into the side panel. The overhead light flickered, then steadied. The space looked like any suburban storage area, shelves of paint cans, a workbench, a toolbox. But behind a hidden panel, opened by pressing 2 fingers into a slot near the breaker box, was something she never knew about. The door clicked open. I stepped into a 12x12 command center, fortified walls, soundproofed, a steel desk with 4 screens, fiber optic uplinks, 3 signal jammers, and a secure array of data backups. My haven, I sat, exhaled, and activated the house's concealed audio system. I'd installed it myself 2 years ago, tiny ceramic mics hidden in light fixtures, air vents, even the baseboards. I rewound 10 minutes and played it back. "Yeah, darling, he's completely clueless." I shut my eyes, let the words sink in, not their meaning. That didn't matter, it was her tone, the kind I'd heard in interrogation rooms. The kind liars use like cologne, anxious assurance, gleeful spite. She hung up. I switched to the video feed. The kitchen camera caught her fingers dancing across her phone. I traced the number in real time and ran it through a burner trace. Results came back quickly. A prepaid phone registered 3 towns away, pinging off towers linked to known Najera cartel associates. Southbound networks, trafficking, and enforcement. I'd seen their handiwork. I'd cleaned up their messes. I watched her pour wine, settle on the couch, and smile. That smile. It used to warm me. Now it chilled my hands. She thought I was just a guy with a desk job. A guy who grabbed takeout, missed anniversaries, and paid the mortgage on time. She didn't know the safe beneath the garage floor held a case with custom M118 rounds and a collapsible rifle I'd used in Jordan. She didn't know every room in this house could become a tactical fortress in under 2 hours. She didn't know I'd mapped every entry, exit, and sightline since we moved in. She didn't know I'd been waiting, not out of suspicion, out of instinct. Spend 30 years among enemies and you learn to measure footsteps and angles even while brushing your teeth. You don't stop just because you've got a mortgage. I watched her finish her wine and head to bed. She didn't lock the back door. No need. They were coming tomorrow. She thought she'd cleared the way. She'd made one error. She thought she'd married an ordinary man. I opened the safe, retrieved the case, and unlatched it. The rifle lay there like a trusted ally. I began assembling it, each part clicking into place with a precision you never lose. I muttered to the empty room, "Chaotic, huh?" She wanted chaos. She was about to get it. They say the worst betrayals don't come with shouting, they come with silence. And when it happens, you don't hear your heart break. You just hear the room grow quieter, too quiet. The night after I overheard her plotting my murder, I didn't sleep. I didn't pace. I didn't drink. I sat in my command center and recalled the jungle. Koringal Valley, 2006. A place that never stayed still. Even the trees felt wrong. The heat pressed down like a fist. You'd hold position for hours, eyes locked, muscles still, mind blank, just listening, waiting. Then a shadow would shift just enough to warrant a shot. I remember the first time I waited too long. The same day I saw two of our men bleed out in the dirt because I hesitated. It's not always a bullet that kills you out there. Sometimes it's a moment of doubt. I swore to myself that day, never wait to be betrayed. I carried that into the bureau. The ghosts followed. I got better at naming them. Different uniforms, different faces, same lifeless eyes. When I met her, I was posing as a private contractor for Valence Ops, embedded under the bureau's covert network. She was a systems analyst brought on to overhaul our logistics software. Smart, charming, liked her coffee dark and bitter. Said her last boyfriend conned his way into her life with a crypto scheme, so trust was hard won. I should have seen the irony then, but I was weary. Weary of the game, the lies, the masks. She made me feel like I could finally hang my rifle up for good. She even laughed when she saw the scar above my collarbone. Said it looked like a check mark. "Just do it," she murmured, kissing it. It felt like letting go. I didn't realize it was my surrender, but the clues started piling up. The late-night work calls where her voice dipped too low. The sudden emergencies at her sister's. The questions about my savings, my passwords. I kept excusing her, blaming my own scars. We see threats where there aren't any, don't we? Sometimes the threat is real. At 4:12 a.m., I pulled two burners from hiding, one from the wall vent, one from the attic. No trace, no prints, each tied to a separate alias. I texted two trusted bureau contacts. I didn't spell it out, just enough. Potential compromise, asset at risk, prepare for standby protocol. Code phrase, sparrows left the nest. Within 6 minutes, I had confirmation. Two dead drops were set, one in a dumpster off 8th and Porter, another behind a gym vending machine. They'd activate the next phase if I went dark. I wiped both phones, crushed their SIMs, and scattered the pieces across 3 trash bins the next morning. No loose threads. The house was next. I'd spent years playing the husband who couldn't fix a sink. It made it easy to wire the place without suspicion. The garage had pressure sensors on both side entries. The back door had a silent alarm. I hid 2 wireless cams in the gutters, feeding to a private loop I could monitor from my watch if needed. It looked like I was tending the lawn. I was setting traps. By sunrise, the house wasn't a home anymore. It was a stronghold. I blended a protein shake I didn't drink and opened the safe. The long case hadn't been touched in nearly 2 years, not because I forgot it, because I hoped I'd never need it again. I set it on the table and popped the latches. The rifle stared back like it had never left. M110 semi-automatic sniper system. Custom optics, subsonic rounds, suppressed barrel. The kind of gear you don't carry without a badge and a congressional signature. I checked the chamber. Clean. I loaded the first round. Handcrafted, hollow point etched just below the casing. K21, my own mark, not bureau-issued. Then I spoke, not to her, not to anyone. Just to the ghosts in the room. "Tomorrow, darling," I whispered. "Let's make it chaotic." And I grinned. She thought she'd opened the door for killers. She didn't know I'd already opened it for them. The smell of grilled steak hit me before I reached the kitchen. Butter, garlic, a touch of thyme, the full spread. She'd gone all out. I stepped in and saw her, apron on, hair swept up like she hadn't worn it in ages, smiling like the past day never happened. "There's my guy," she said. "Dinner's almost done. I thought we deserved a cozy night." She pulled the skillet off the heat and plated the steak like it was for a photo shoot. Candlelight glowed on the table. The fancy wine, the one we saved for our anniversary, was already open, breathing. It was a show, and it was damn convincing. I sat across from her, watching her movements, too polished, too deliberate. She poured the wine past me my glass, her fingers grazing mine like she was still playing the loving wife. I smiled. She raised her glass. "To us." I raised mine. "To tomorrow." She stiffened. It was subtle, just a flicker in her jaw, a quick blink. But I saw it. I always see it. Then she laughed, too breezy, and said, "You're not gonna tell me what that's about, are you?" I just sliced into the steak. "Not yet." She watched me for a moment, then pivoted, chattering about the neighbor's dog, the forecast, a show she wanted us to watch. I nodded, said little. Her words buzzed like static in my ears. This wasn't my wife. This was a facade crafted to keep me blind, docile, tame. After dinner she stood, saying she had to take a call. "My sister," she added with a playful eye roll. "She's having another crisis." I leaned back. "Take your time." She grabbed her coat, flashed a smile I used to trust, and walked out the front door. I waited 6 seconds, then tapped my watch twice. The garage drone, hidden in a lawn bin, hummed to life, silently tracking her GPS tag. I'd sewn it into her coat's lining last year. Not because I doubted her, but because I don't trust peace. The screen lit up. She wasn't heading to her sister's. She turned left past the highway, then again onto a dark service road that dead-ended at an abandoned construction site near the industrial district. The drone feed showed her pulling up to a white van. 2 figures were already there. As she stepped out, 9 more emerged from the shadows. 10 men total, geared up, black boots, gloves, night vision goggles. Not amateurs, not local thugs. This was military precision. Silent, organized, intentional. And then she kissed one of them, not a quick peck. Not a ruse, it was deep, familiar, intimate. My chest didn't break, my hands didn't tremble, it was something colder than anger. Something deeper than pain, it was clarity. The woman I loved had been gone a long time, maybe she never existed. What stood in my kitchen earlier was just her shell wrapped around something else entirely. Something calculated, something deadly. I cut the drone feed and stood. No words, no ritual, just action. I opened the gun case again and slid the rifle into a rucksack, disassembled, smooth. Practiced. Grabbed 2 spare mags, a curved combat knife, and a low-lumen headlamp. Slipped out the side gate into the tree line behind the house. The path I'd walked 100 times to clear my mind. I moved fast but low, weaving through suburban streets, hopping fences until the houses faded and the woods thickened. The city hummed behind me, but out here past the gravel pit, it was just wind and rusted chain link. I reached the property's edge and dropped to a knee behind some brush. From here, I could see the van, the gear bags, the men loading suppressed rifles and passing out comms. She was still there, pointing at a printed schematic. My house. She was briefing them on entry points, motion sensors, the safe's location in the garage. She even marked where I usually left my phone on the kitchen counter before bed. She didn't know the schematic was a fake, altered 2 weeks ago. The safe she pointed to was a decoy. The blind spots had reverse IR triggers that would ping every heat signature to me in real time. She didn't know the house she lived in was never hers to chart. I watched her laugh again, saw one of the men pat her shoulder like she was part of the team. Maybe she was. I adjusted my pack, rolled my shoulders, and pulled my hood up. The moon was out, but I stayed in the shadows, invisible to anyone not hunting ghosts. Training taught me how to disappear, how to move between gusts and wires, between pulse and breath. Tonight, I wasn't going home. I was walking into the kill zone, finger already on the trigger. I was already in position when they arrived, prone on the 2nd floor of the concrete husk that used to be the site's old office wing. From here, I had a clear view of the entry, north and west sides, and part of the main floor interior. My rifle was set, elevation dialed, wind accounted for. Every trap was ready, every angle calculated. They pulled in around 9:43 p.m., acting like they were showing up to a party, joking, nudging each other. One even popped a beer, careless, cocky. They thought this was a simple hit, just a soft target asleep in bed. I watched her step out of the 2nd SUV, clipboard in hand, still wearing the coat I got her last winter, the one she said made her feel protected. She gathered them, pointing to the schematic. Her voice came through the parabolic mic, steady, authoritative. She was their coordinator, not a pawn. "There's a side entry here," she said, tapping the corner. He usually sleeps facing the door. Silenced shots to the head and chest make the scene sloppy, toss drawers, cut some cables, stage it like a robbery gone wrong. One of the men chuckled. "Easy cash." She smirked. "Don't get sloppy, he's not as clueless as he seems." She wasn't wrong. They hit the south wall first, right where I wanted them. The pressure sensors were tuned for their weight. Once triggered, they'd start a 5-second silent countdown to group them. I waited. The first man moved fast, sweeping the corner with his rifle raised. He took 2 steps past the support beam and dropped. Chest caved in, silenced round, straight through the sternum. No sound, just flesh hitting concrete. The second spun too fast and hit the buried flash. He staggered into the nail bomb rigged in the utility sink. It didn't kill him, just shredded his legs. His scream echoed like a wounded dog. Panic spread like wildfire. They dove for cover, trying to pinpoint the shooter. They didn't know I was outside, above, untouchable. The 3rd and 4th went down clean, 2 shots each, one to the back of the head, one through the throat as he tried to bark orders. By then, she was yelling, "Hold position, find the shooter, move." But there was no position, just disorder. I watched one try the stairwell, tripping a wire. He didn't make the 2nd step before the rebar snapped, dropping him onto the steel spikes I'd planted below. 6 down. Number 7 ran through a side hall and hit the ceramic shard wire. Not fatal, but it made him drop his rifle. That's when I took out his knee. I didn't kill him yet. I wanted him to see her as he bled. 8 and 9 tried for the van. I dropped them before they reached the hood. Their heat signatures glowed like beacons on my scope, predictable, exposed, weak. The last one, number 10, was the one she called Darling. I knew because he kept shouting her name like she'd save him. He ran, unarmed, begging for backup on a burner that wouldn't connect. He made it 12 feet before I stepped from the shadows. I didn't shoot. I stabbed once under the ribcage, angled up. His breath caught and he dropped to his knees. He looked up at her, gasping, eyes wide with a betrayal he couldn't process. She caught him, tried to prop him up, blood soaking her jeans. "No, no, no, please," she whispered, pressing his chest. I stepped into the open, rifle slung, the final charges already armed behind me. She looked up and froze. Her hands dripped with his blood. Her face contorted, not fear, but shock, grief, maybe remorse. "I trusted you," she choked out. I stared back. My voice was colder than I meant. "I trusted you first." She reached for something. I didn't wait to see what. I pinned her down, cuffed her wrists behind her back, and pulled her to her feet. She screamed, thrashed, but she was finished. Her team was finished. No one was coming to save her. The timer was running, 3 minutes. The fake gas line I'd rigged downstairs was already leaking. By the time anyone found this place, it'd be a smoldering crater with 10 unidentifiable bodies and no trace of me. She was the only loose end, and even that was just waiting for transport. The interrogation room was stark, windowless, humming with the faint buzz of fluorescent lights that always grated on me. A bureau seal hung on the wall, more like a threat than a badge. 2 cameras in opposite corners, one mirrored pane. Probably 2 analysts and a supervisor behind it, watching me like I was the one under scrutiny. She sat across from me, wrists chained to the table. She hadn't spoken since the ride-in. No begging, no fury, just silence, the kind that hums with unspoken truths. My contact walked in, Agent Mendez. We'd run 2 ops together, one in Chicago, one in Tucson. Sharp, reliable, never pried unnecessarily. He nodded and said, "We'll handle it from here." I stood without looking at her, but I felt her gaze, not broken, not soft, just simmering with quiet loathing. That was fine. That was fair. They were processing her under Operation Glass Veil, a deep dive into cartel networks using civilian assets to infiltrate and compromise law enforcement. She wasn't just a woman who fooled me. She was a cog in a larger machine, a recruiter, a handler, and based on her messages, a gatekeeper for a hit list 3 dozen names long. I was just a trial run. Mendez unhooked her chain, pulled her to her feet, and led her out without fanfare. She didn't look back. Neither did I. No one patted me on the back, no medals. That's how this job works. Do it right and no one knows you were there. I signed the final paperwork and left through the garage-level exit. The morning sun stabbed my eyes after hours underground. I took it, squinting through the sting, and walked to the edge of the parking structure where my truck was parked. In the glove box was my phone, the real one, still off, still untouched since I'd triggered the contingency drop 3 nights ago. I didn't turn it on, not yet. Instead, I drove east, past the city limits, past the edge of surveillance, into the scrublands where no one patrolled, where the roads crumbled and the wind never stopped. I pulled off near mile marker 212 and hiked the rest. My gear was still stashed where I'd left it, in a dry bag under a hollowed tree, double-wrapped and sealed against dampness. The rifle was broken down, cleaned, reassembled in minutes. My hands knew the motions like a hymn. One I hadn't sung in years but never forgot. I set up camp the way I did on solo missions. Quiet, simple, precise, no fire. No lights, just a cold canteen and a flat patch of earth under a sky full of stars that didn't judge or question. Then I sat. No debrief, no rush, just the echoes of everything I didn't say. I pulled a small notepad from my jacket's inner pocket. No labels. No names, just blank pages for truths I never voiced. I took a pencil stub and wrote slowly, deliberately. I never wanted revenge, I just wanted to be seen. I paused, then added, and now I've vanished again, just how I like it. I tore out the page, folded it into thirds, and lit a match. The flame caught fast, curling the paper like it recoiled. I held it until the fire kissed my fingers. Then I dropped it into the dirt, watching the ash scatter in the breeze. They say in training that people like me, deep covers, shadows, can't ever truly come back. We learn to fade, and eventually we forget how to live in the light. I used to think it was grim. Now I know it's just a quiet truth. I lay back, rifle beside me, eyes on the stars. Somewhere far off, she was in a cell. A real one now. Interrogations, processing, declassification. She'd spend her life in rooms like the one I left her in, and I wouldn't visit. I wouldn't even check the reports, because this story wasn't about her anymore. It was about the silence that follows, The one I'd trained for lived in, that strange, calm hum that only exists when you're between targets, between covers. Between ghosts, I stood just before dawn, shouldered my pack, and headed for the hills. No one knew what I'd done, not completely, not even the Bureau, and that was the point. Tomorrow would bring another name, another file, another face I'd have to wear, but tonight, for a few hours, I was no one, and I liked it that way.